Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real FERM podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. This week, we have a whole litany of beef dissemination into pop culture from the Kendrick Lamar that we've touched upon many times into other weird spaces and comments. This is the Real FERM podcast where me, the real FERM, not like those other fake firms, get into what interests me the most in the week of news and happenings in the world and in my life and what have you. So, Taylor Swift comes up again somehow, but you'll see why, and it does kind of have to do with the beef. So, stick with me. We're going to have a good time and, of course, end it with a glorious Florida Man of the Week. Hope you enjoy. Let's get into it.
Real FERM. He's the realest.
All right. We're back in the solo format this week. Last week we had Rockstar Life, One Word, Three Eyes in the Tesla studio backseat podcast setup, which I had prepared this time, so the audio was solid. It might sound I think this setup sounds the best audio-wise because it's the best mic, and that's a little tangent, not necessary to talk about. But anyway, so that was fun. We got more into the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef, which continues to fuel on, and that's I'm not going to talk about that necessarily specifically or continue to go into it further in this episode, but it does kind of paint a picture of what a phenomenon of this trend catching on to this trend of other people, it would seem, at least. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the fun intro I did. I figured I'd test out some kind of intro, since especially for solo podcasts. I'm getting better at them. I'm enjoying them more. I got my outline. I know what I want to talk about. I got the articles that I'm truly interested in, and we're going to have a good time. So I, again, appreciate you for sticking around, listening to me / watching me talk to you, at you, and hopefully it helps your day, or you get some information, some insight, some entertainment, whatever it may be. And again, we will have more guests in the future, not just Rockstar Life. If anyone's watching and just wanted to be on, because I know a few of you local Florida musician artists tap in once in a while, hit me up. I'm extremely hermit tendency person. If you ask me and I'm like a vampire. You have to invite me in for me to come. Yeah, I'd love to drive to you in my car, and we'll do a podcast there if we don't have a space. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. So, before we get into all the fun topics, the firmware update is pretty much the same as last time. Last week wasn't super eventful outside of the home, besides doing the weekly upcoming artist radio live streams, which I've slowly been trying to restructure in some way. Some hints at anyone that listens to this that regularly tunes into that, which is kind of a live podcast in a way, in its form. Sorry, I just had a burp attack. I can't really distribute it to audio platforms because of all the copyrighted samples that end up getting claimed, so I'm not even going to try to do that, but that's essentially what it is. So if you don't listen to Upcoming Artist Radio and you do tune into this podcast, Upcoming Artist Radio Live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, unless otherwise noted, I talk about the songs that are being sent in, and we listen to the songs, and it's essentially like my own little live stream, YouTube, Twitch, multi-stream radio. Yeah, that would be cool, and the artists would love it. It's all about the artists, helping them And it kind of, that ties into what I'm going to talk about here as well. But yeah, I just sticking to the streams. And oh yeah, that's right. I said I was thinking I've had this channel, Upcoming Artist Radio channel, that I was intending on using it as one of those like 24/7 broadcast YouTube channels that play music, like the lo-fi study music things, and then put like my favorites. I thought it was a great idea. I still think it is, but the logistics are so wild, and the constant live streaming, and then having to curate the songs, and then not knowing if it's going to be popular enough to be worth all that work. I just held, but I've been thinking I might want to just move the stream over to that channel and keep the FERM channel as more of my music and other fun things that I do, that I want to do, but not yet. But that's just something I've been thinking about. Anyway, a little tangent. Didn't even mean to bring that up, but it's part of the firmware update. So yeah, nothing special. I went out, hung out with the homies, but no events of that kind. And still looking for jobs. I've been applying. I've been applying to many jobs, but 2 jobs that actually seem to be promising to where they would accept me as a candidate, and not a settling for lower pay than what I'm used to situation, which would be excellent. However, that would really shift my gears mentally to where I probably wouldn't be able to dedicate as much time to the online content that I've been doing, trying in the lottery-esque hopes that it would generate enough income before I ran out of all my savings money from New York City. But that's a story for another time. So yeah, just trying to use my master's degree without resorting to working at Publix, but you never know. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. But for now, we're chugging along. And that's about it. That's the firmware update for last week. So as it's almost tired at this point, and I hope you don't hate hearing about it, but the Kendrick Lamar Drake battle continues to ensue and whatnot. I, as a non-hip-hop enthusiast, although I am a fan of it in a way, I'm not a fanatic, I'm not a super fan, haven't been following it all my life. The beef thing has always seemed kind of childish to me, in high school clique stuff. I do respect it, and I do understand how the statement I just made could be cringy, but that's genuinely the way I feel about it. But I do, I get it, and it is entertaining, and I have indulged in beefs myself as a onlooker in an interesting way, such as the Eminem MGK one, which only really lasted 2 songs, essentially. But, so I get the whole thing, but it seems like it's gone a little far since the last one that went so far as to wind up in the death of a prominent rapper, two Biggie and Tupac. I don't even know the history fully. I don't know. No need to speculate on things that are already known. You know, if you don't know, look it up. But it's funny because in the last podcast we did, if you remember, I made a joke about, this sounds like someone's going to end up dying, because this has happened in the past. And then I made a fun clip for the Reels and the TikTok of that moment, and then put the article up that came out just a couple days later after recording that, saying the security guard was shot outside Drake's mansion, and apparently other shit's been happening. So I'm not hoping for anyone to die any less than I'm hoping for this beef to just kind of end. Although I get it pumps up the community and people love it, the drama. But Drama's cool in art. I'm all for it. But when it gets into real life, come on now. And when you start attacking people's character and creepy things come out, maybe that should have come out, allegations and such, I have taking no side in that, but it's just wild. It's like almost getting into the cancel culture thing, which is happening in comedy a lot and in media. Some well-deserved canceling, such as Bill Cosby, but also going overboard. And it's just, I don't like that whole scene. And we'll get into that in a little bit with an article from a prominent rap figure who commented on it in a way that I fully agreed with him on. But, oh yeah, I did leave this out of the firmware update. So after 10 minutes of talking, have not mentioned, if you're just listening, you won't know, but if you're watching, you've noticed that I'm shirtless and I have a radical sunburn on my face because we went to the beach for Mother's Day with the family. It was a great time. Good old Florida Gulf Coast beach. And just got burnt to shit. And then I haven't showered since because I like to wait to shower right before bed because of OCD and wanting to keep the bed clean from my disgusting body. And then taking a shower earlier fucks up my OCD timeline of how I'm supposed to go to bed. And then I can't, I have serious issues that I need to see a therapist about, but that'll happen eventually when I, so yeah, I'm not wearing a shirt. I think that's fine for YouTube. I don't have tits, so hopefully that's cool. I'm pretty sure I've seen shirtless people on YouTube. I think we're good. I think it's Twitch. The live streaming things are weird. Anyway, neither here nor there. So, in that, I forgot to mention it because I meant to bring it up at the beach. In the podcast, last solo when I was talking about Taylor Swift breaking all of her records and how I listened to one of her songs on it, and I was like, I really like this. So when I was on the beach, I was like, let me just start rolling this record from start to top. Since it's so long, I didn't make it through the whole thing yet, but there's at least 4 songs on there where I was like, oh yes, I just love her songwriting, her voice, the energy she can capture and project through the sound waves is fantastic. Now, mind you, she's really, I guess she's pretty much the only like huge pop mainstream artist I've ever really liked this much. And I'm not saying I'm all of a sudden a Swiftie or anything. I never, I remember the first time I heard her music, I must have been 15 or something. I guess her second album, I don't know which one it is, you can fact check it, but she was just kind of coming up, I suppose, and I was having I forget the exact scenario, but some sort of sleepover situation with a close friend of mine from my early childhood and into young adult years. He was the one that always had the girlfriends all the time, and I was a late bloomer and still am. But so anyway, we were like in the same room like at night, like trying to hang out, and he has like, I don't know if it was his first girlfriend or whatever, high school scenarios or second, but he had to call her every night, talk to her for like 2 hours or whatever, and I was all like, God damn it, I just want to hang out with my bro, and he's talking to this girl. That's neither here nor there. The point is, somehow out of that, he showed me a song from Taylor Swift, because of course she loved this song, which and then he showed it to me, and I was like, oh, it's a great example of how music, your perception of music is so influenced by time, place, mood, peer group, peer pressure, state of mind, all that kind of stuff. so subjective in the way you perceive it, no matter how good it sounds from an objective standpoint. And it was one of the she's the cheer captain, I'm on the bleachers, or whatever, or the love story song, one of those, Romeo Juliet. And I remember hearing it, I was immediately like, this is meant for little girls. I hate this. I never want to hear Taylor Swift again. And in that moment, I was like, fuck Taylor Swift. I don't want to hear. Same thing with when the first time I heard Justin Bieber or the Jonas Brothers. And that was a time before I opened my mind and I had a teenage boy's ego, which everyone has to go through, of course. Some people never grow out of it, and that's okay too, I guess. But I, since then, I've moved on. The last time the first time I remember really getting Taylor Swift is I was at a friend's house when I lived in the city, and I've always respected her just from seeing her rising, amazing record-smashing career. So, but I heard and we were watching YouTube, and somehow one of her live performances came on of her playing her song All Too Well, and it was her on the keyboard, solo on the keyboard, belting it out, and it moved me in a spiritual way. And I was like, this is amazing. Taylor Swift is awesome. And I remember that in that moment. Never really went back to her since then. And then this new album comes out and it's shattering records. I'm like, I have to listen to it. And sure enough, there's at least 3 to 4 songs that and I haven't finished it fully yet. I'm like 2/3 through, fully in love with the songs. Will listen to them multiple times from now until I get tired of it, because you always end up doing, you got to space it out. But I'll probably end up doing if you follow me on Instagram, or I didn't post on Instagram, on TikTok, I did do a little fun cover of the Fortnite song just to see if it would get views, because Taylor Swift views, but I don't know. That song, it's all right, but the song's down bad, and it's just, and again, they're all breakup. It's her whole thing, the breakups, whole mentality concept for the message. And even without not currently experiencing a breakup and coming from the female perspective, so I'm not even really emotionally attached to it. It's just the way it flows, her voice, I can just feel her. It's great. It's wonderful stuff. So I'm fully on board with Taylor Swift. A little bit of a longer sidetrack than I anticipated. But yeah, I was listening to Taylor Swift at the beach today. That's what that's about. So yeah, but we're gonna get into her in a little bit. First, before we get into the whole beef thing, a fun story. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna save this fun story since I'm already on the Taylor Swift thing and the beef thing that I teased, and which is what this whole podcast episode is supposed to be themed about. Let's put the fun brain article at the end before the Florida man story. So, again, Kendrick and Drake, big beef, whatever. Everyone's like latching on. It's like the new trend. You make a diss track. Now, of course, hip-hop culture, diss tracks have always been a thing. I get that, but I've never seen it more prevalently from an outsider of the hip-hop culture's perspective, of just coming into my news feed. So clearly it's affecting everyone, and there's some people submitting FERM diss tracks just for fun, and don't need to comment on them. I wasn't really upset by them, but it's just bizarre stuff. No actual disrespect. Whatever, but it's just weird. So the point is, apparently, if you haven't heard, Shaq made a diss track. Shaquille O'Neal, the former basketball player, who now has a podcast, the big podcast with Shaquille O'Neal, I believe it's called. NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal dropped Shannon Sharpe diss track following NBA MVP criticism. May 10th, this article was written posted 2 days ago. I'm recording it a little after midnight. NFL Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe, who also has a massive podcast, broke the internet with the Cat Williams interview, which I watched in full. Shannon Sharpe's a good time. And I've seen Shaquille O'Neal's podcast as well. It's all good times. But so NFL Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe heavily criticized Shaq on his Nightcap podcast earlier this week after the former Laker critiqued Denver Nuggets star Nikola Jokic, I think it's pronounced, winning a third MVP for 4 years, blah, blah, blah. Shaq said the Oklahoma City guard, Shay, whoever deserved to win the title, and then he candidly told that to Jokic's face in an interview after collecting his latest accolades. So then Sharpe fires back. He took issue with it. Shaq should have five MVPs. He's a guy like Nikola Jokic, whatever, that's not as dominant as him and gets 3 and 4 years. When you're historically great, they talk about you as a great basketball player, the GOAT, and Shaq is never brought up. So right away you can tell that Shannon isn't even dissing Shaq. He's just he's making comments about this other thing that Shaq said, but he's also giving Shaq compliments about how, am I misreading this? When you took issue, Shaq should have 5 MVPs. He said he sees a guy. Oh, okay, I misread. He sees a guy like Nikola that's not as dominant as him and gets 3 and 4 years. When you historically great, they talk about you as a great basketball player, go, and Shaq is never brought up. So he's saying, maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but he's saying that Shaq is butthurt that he's not talked about as much or whatever. Sharpe continues, accusing him of jealousy. I think a part of him is envious of that. It's hard for me to put someone in the GOAT conversation with 1 MVP. I guess Shaq only has 1 MVP. If Shaq would have had my work ethic, he would have had 40,000 points. So it takes a little dig at him, but he's still putting him in the cat. Like, he's still giving him his props and whatnot. So, and then Shaq just goes on a tirade. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's, just basic internet comment argumentative stuff, firing back and forth. But the real wild thing is the actual diss track he made with the whole Instagram post. I'm not going to play it because I doubt it's copyrighted, but just in case the audio platforms are weird with that, I don't want to take a chance. But you go to Shaq's Instagram page, unless he took it down by now, but it looks like it's still active on this article as I speak. It's basically what you would expect if you can imagine Shaq making a diss track rapping. You're exactly right. I mean, it's not. I've heard worse, like sounding things, but lyrically it's decent. But it's like, it's Shaquille O'Neal rapping. He's not terrible at it, but he's not like a rapper, so you can tell he doesn't have the chops at it. So it's just hilarious that this is happening. The Big Podcast with Shaq, that's what his podcast called. I just think it's hilarious that you got the beef culture is taking over. That was kind of a half rhyme almost. Should I start freestyling at this? No, the beef culture is taking over, and I'm assuming Shaq was gotten his feels about it, and he was like, everyone's doing diss tracks now, I'm gonna do a diss track. Just like what I was saying with the live stream FERM diss tracks. It seems like it's penetrating through into the non-professional rap game as well. It's hilarious. So yeah, check out the Shaq diss track on Instagram. It's a fun listen. No doubt. So moving on. Back to Taylor Swift. Now this isn't exactly a beef per se. It's a Taylor Swift version of a beef, which is a love version of it, which is basically her whole catalog. But first, a quick drink break. Oh, I just realized, oh no, we're good. Never mind. Do not mind that. So, Taylor Swift has been on a rampage on her tours here. Rampage used in a positive way, of course. And so, if you don't know the history, she used to date famously before Travis Kelce, the lead singer of the 1975 Matty Healy. Now, I could easily go off for 20 minutes about this. I'm going to try to keep this short. I am in love with Matty Healy. I fell in love with him man crush style, no Diddy homo, in the year 2013, before their first album came out. I came across him somehow through YouTube or whatever, before with a live clip, and I loved their music. It was the first and the last band to really take me by storm and become a super fan of, to the point where I saw them like 3 times within 2 years after the first album came out. And it's funny because their style, especially now, they've definitely evolved into even more of a pop type of sound, which I'm not opposed to it at all. I'm still fully on board, and I'm excited to hear their 6th studio album, which I'm assuming is coming at some. I think they're at 6 now, 5 or 6 or 7, one of those. So when I found out that Taylor Swift was dating Matty Healy, I was like, hell yeah, I love that guy. And Taylor Swift is they're going to be some kind of artistic power couple, musical artist power couple. But then they broke up, and then she started dating Travis Kelce, and so I'm assuming in the writing of the Tortured Poets department, a lot of the songs, a lot of the breakup stuff is probably written during the time of her breakup with Matty Healy. You see? And it is the fuel for the Tortured Poets department. And to make the album so good, it only makes sense that you had to break up with one of the greatest pop vocalists of our modern era, Matty Healy. All hail, please call me, and I love you. But what's very cool, what's very fascinating rather, and cool, is so she's been doing shows performing her new songs, and a couple of TikTokers have noticed some interesting similarities in her performance and stuff and lyrics. So I'm gonna play this on the screen here of this TikTok mirroring Matty Healy's live performance from a past concert and Taylor's recent performance. So let's check it out. So you can see that she's mimicked the whole persona of his movements on the stage and kind of wearing a similar kind of wild getup. It's uncanny the amount of similar movements she makes. Now you could argue these are common pop lead man, lead woman, vocal people things, but they did date, and she did break up with him, and she does write about all of her breakups. So the fact that she's mimicking his exact movements in performance setups and choreography is, to me, this I link this to beefs. This is like, not that she's influenced by maybe she was by Kendrick and Drake's beef, but she's like putting subliminal Easter egg messages into her performances, and it does seem that most of her a lot of her songs on the album are directly about Matty Healy, by evidence. I'm not going to get into the Swiftie details of it, but evidence of specific lyrics that are particular to his stuff and all that. But yeah, so let me read a little bit from this. In the Eras Tour is already the highest selling concert tour of all time. But Taylor Swift is just getting started. As she kicks off the European leg of Eras, Tay Tay has even more to celebrate. As she's released her, as Swifties know, the latest LP from the Fortnite singer revolved around the end of her 6-year relationship with ex-Joe Alwyn. However, to the surprise of many, much of the album also focused on Swift's short-lived and highly publicized dalliance with the 1975 frontman Matty Healy. So I forgot about that, the Joe Alwyn thing, which I didn't really know about until I read this article. So I guess that makes sense. So half of it's about Joe, half of it's about Matty. So while we've already broken down every instance of Miss Americana referencing Healy on TTPD, this is on harpersbazaar.com. As a couple of sleuthing TikTokers noticed, there seemed to be many references to Healy's stage presence when Swift debuted on Thursday night in Paris, as I've just showed. And then another TikToker, in another video, at retrogirl_20, the last one was at Healy75. This is at retrogirl_20, gotta give the credits. Pointed out that Swift was performing TTPD's The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived while wearing a white military jacket and marching across the stage at her first show in Paris, mind you. There has to be a Napoleon joke in there somewhere, right? So Napoleon Complex, Smallest Man That Ever Lived. I think there's also lyrics in there. Of course, Smallest Man That Ever Lived is presumably about Healy due to its lyric about a Jehovah's Witness suit, which seems to be referencing Healy's unique tour outfits and also a lot of other clues. So we'll watch the TikTok here.
So we have a military-style jacket, a Napoleonic military-style jacket, marching drums, white truce flags, all during The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived on Paris Night 1. There has to be a Napoleon joke in there somewhere, right? Taylor's got jokes.
Taylor's got jokes. So, yeah, I mean, this is hilarious. She's low-key dissing him by mocking him live, not just writing about, that's expected, writing about the breakup, referencing him, taking little jabs, not a hip-hop beef per se, but going on stage and, mimicking his motions and doing the whole, from on their first night, I think that's what it said, of the European tour, which he's from, not Paris, but he's, UK. It's pretty wild. Shout out to Taylor, and I love them both now. I love Matty. I gotta be on Matty's side. I was Matty first, but I'm all in on Taylor. Not all in. Some of the songs in the album I heard that I was like, all right, this reminds me of that first 2 album sound that I was not into at all, and still gives me that kind of ick, I guess. Not, well, I don't know what that means, but you know what I'm saying. The point is, she's an amazing performer and songwriter. Shout out to her. Shout out to Matty Healy. The disses run rampant even in the pop music icons in sneaky ways. Hell yeah. All right, so let's move on. This is already over 30 minutes, and I have just one more thing about the beef, and then we'll move on to some fun topics to close it out. This man, Questlove, has made a statement that I've been thinking this whole time. Questlove, who is a member of The Roots, I believe. I'm not a hip-hop buff. I don't know all the history and everything, but I've heard of Questlove, of course. The headline is on CNN, Questlove was not happy with Drake and Kendrick Lamar's beef. Nobody won the war. It's exactly what I always say. It's all subjective. You're fighting each other, and you're getting nasty with it in a kind of, frowned upon way at certain points. And Questlove, a wiser, elder of hip-hop, so to speak, I believe, is being mature about it. So here's what it says. While some may have been excited and or amused by the diss track feud between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, the man many consider to be an elder statesman of hip-hop appears less than enthused about it. Questlove, the drummer for the hip-hop group The Roots, recently posted on a verified Instagram account that many took to be about the high-profile battle between the two rappers. Nobody won the war, he wrote. This wasn't about skill. This was a wrestling match level mudsliding. Sorry? Let me just start over. This was a wrestling match level mudslinging and takedown by any means necessary. Women and children, in parentheses, and actual facts, because they were taking jabs at the family and other children, allegations, be damned. Drake and Lamar have engaged in lyrical battle in recent weeks. Yeah. Social media leading to the drama with memes, hot takes about who won. Drama sells, people love it, gets the clicks. But Questlove appeared to take a darker attitude about it. That's a weird way to word it, CNN writer. I would say a lighter, brighter attitude about it. Quote, same audience wanting blood will soon put up RIP posts like they weren't part of the problem, he wrote in his note. Hip-hop is truly dead. Questlove disabled the feature that allows for comments on his posts. I respect that 100%. Because the comments ain't going to be nothing but a pile of heaping, flaming trash of human debauchery in the text communication form in public forum. So shout out to Questlove, mad respect. That's exactly how I feel about it at this point. I respect the entertainment value, the cultural standpoint, but like in comedy, that's what I always make the analogy with comedy. I mean, some people get hard. Same thing happens in comedy sometimes, but there's like established like roast. But I mean, rap has that too. Rap battles. You hug it out. Somebody, wins or judges, or if it's just the roast of Tom Brady, that's a trendy topic, but I'm not getting into that. You roast someone and it's like, it's all fun and games. It's very funny. You said funny things. You cut deep, but at the end of the day, it's shake hands and hug, and it's a friendly competition. But at this point, it's gotten out of hand, not cool, kind of cringy from my perspective, like two high school bullies and like other rival bullies on the playground duking it out. It's like, guys, just it makes me want to believe that this was manufactured so they could continue to rise in their popularity, because that would be more understandable from my perspective. So anyway, shout out Questlove. It's wild that he says hip hop is truly dead. But that I got to read that quote one more time. Same audience wanting blood will soon put up RIP posts like they weren't part of the problem. Mad wisdom and forethought and critical thinking there from Questlove. Shout out to him. Now, let's move on from the beef, get to some fun articles, and wrap it up here. Before we get to the Florida Man of the Week, I read this article and I was like, holy goddamn shit. This is awesome. Now, this is one I could go off a full podcast on just from conjecture and philosophy. But I'm just going to read it and you tell me what you think in the comments if you're still sticking around. Full scan. This is from tomshardware.com. Fantastic, digital computer hardware. Anyway, full scan of 1 cubic millimeter. That is 1 by 1 by 1 millimeter, which is yay small, not even, of brain tissue took 1.4 petabytes of data, equivalent to 14,000 4K movies. Google's AI experts assist researchers. Jesus Christ. Google's AI experts assist researchers. So basically, they're analyzing. This is the first time they're able to analyze a tiny part of a human brain with, I believe they use scanning electron microscopy, which I actually have minor experience in from working in the lab in New York City. And they, yes, like I said, I don't want to get into it too deeply because we're going long, but with the AI, with Google's AI thing, and to just get all of the data from the 1 cubic millimeter, and they had to do it in like tiny hair strand slices of it. It took up that 1.4 petabytes, which is, what is it, 1.4 million gigabytes or 1.4 billion gigabytes? I forgot the, the camera went out. Shit. Well, apologies for the interruption. That's what happens when I go longer than I usually do. The camera battery's not prepared, and I didn't have it plugged in. Anyway, let's get back into it before it goes any longer. I want to just read a little bit more from this article. A recent attempt to fully map a mere cubic millimeter of human brain took up 1.4 petabytes of storage just in pictures of the specimen. Between Harvard and Google AI, they're trying to fully map and image the brain, which is wild, and they're going to tell you how wild it is. So we did the back of napkin math on what ramping up this experiment to the entire brain would cost, and the scale is impossibly large. 1.6 zettabytes of storage costing $50 billion and spanning 140 acres, making it the largest data center on the planet. The study is full of mind-numbing stats to image the human brain. The researchers, I can't read anymore, needed to utilize Google's machine learning tech, shaving estimated years off the project. Even then, scientists first sliced the sample into 5,000 wafers, orders of magnitude thinner than human hair. Electron microscope images were taken of each slice, combined the count around 50,000 cells and 150 million synapses. And then, so there's some other interesting things. Synthesized images revealed many exciting secrets about the brain that were previously totally unknown. Some cell clusters grew in mirror images of one another. One neuron was found with 5,000 plus connection points to other neurons. One neuron. 5,000 connection points to others. And some axons had become tightly coiled into yarn ball shapes for totally unknown reasons. These and other discoveries made in the course of research excited their scientists beyond reason. Jeff Lichtman, a Harvard professor, said, this is to The Guardian, "We found many things in this data set that are not in the textbooks. We don't understand those things, but I can tell you they suggest there's a chasm between what we already know and what we need to know. For context on the size of the brain sample and data collected from it, we need to get the cubic millimeter of brain matter is only 1/millionth of the size of an adult human brain, and yet the imaging scans and full map of its intricacies comprises 1.4 petabytes or 1.4 million gigabytes. If someone were to utilize the Google Harvard approach to mapping an entire human brain today, the scans would fill up 1.6 zettabytes of storage. That would cost $50 billion. I mean, the human brain is just out of control. We are, tons of interesting thoughts are coming, but we got to wrap this up. Just a little fun tidbit. Hopefully this will dig deeper into this, and I can do an episode on it on its own. But just thought I'd bring that up. Wild, absolutely wild. Just let that sink in for a minute. Pause it if you need to, and then we're going to finish it up with the Florida Man of the Week. Florida Man of the Week the headline is, Florida man who goes by Pee-wee accused of exposing self to shoppers at Target, Walmart, Burlington stores. Updated May 2nd. Fox Orlando, Port Charlotte, Florida. A Florida man has been arrested after he allegedly exposed himself to multiple shoppers while at Target, Walmart, and Burlington stores. Charlotte County deputies said Xavier Pee-wee Hearns exposed himself at least 2 times in 1 week. On April 19th, deputies met with a woman who claimed a man, later identified as Hearns, had been staring at her and touching himself inside a neighborhood Walmart store in Port Charlotte the day before. Investigators reviewed the store's security footage, were able to identify him. Authorities said Hearns had also been arrested on April 2nd for an incident that occurred in March for exposing himself inside a Target store. Days later, on April 25th, deputies responded to the Burlington store after a woman said Hearns was acting suspicious and making her uncomfortable while exposing himself to her in plain sight. Jesus Christ. Hearns was found and arrested the next day on charges of exposure of sexual organs. Great title for a charge. He's being held at the Charlotte County Jail without bond. Anyone who may have been exposed to Hearns' actions is asked to call the sheriff's office at 941-639-2101. If you have been exposed to by Mr. Hearns, call that number. Let's get him. Let's throw the books at him. So we got dudes whipping out their. I mean, what is this? New York City? That the last time I saw that, I was in the city, and I saw it multiple times. Thankfully, I don't have the burden of being a woman in public in New York City, so I wasn't harassed. But I did see quite a few naked penises of varying hardnesses. We'll leave it at that. And that's a way to wrap it up. Shout out to the Florida man of the... Of course, we can't... I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the hilarity of the man calling himself Pee-wee after the great Pee Wee Herman, who jerked off in a porno theater and then was arrested for exposure, even though that's what the theater's for. But so hilarious that it almost seems like satire, but it says he goes by Pee-wee. Good times, good vibes. That'll do it for this week at the Real FERM Podcast. Thank you so much for joining, especially if you're listening to the end. This is a long one. The camera battery died and I had to plug it in. I'm not wearing a shirt and I'm fully sunburned. Hit the like button. Leave a comment, especially if you made it to the end. Much love. Peace and love. Talk to you next week, perhaps with a guest, perhaps not. But I'm hoping the former, because I like to break them up, but you'll see when it comes out. Have a good rest of your week. And shout out to Taylor Swift. What a beautiful songwriter she is. But Matty Healy, I'm all about you, man.